Long before Rome, long before Greece, long before the pyramids of Egypt became ancient, there was Sumer, a land of mud, reeds, rivers, temples, and dust. Today, its ruins lie in the deserts of southern Iraq. Broken walls, buried tablets, silent ziggurats, empty mounds where the first true cities of mankind once stood. But thousands of years ago, these places were alive. Markets were crowded, farmers worked beside canals, priests climbed temple towers, scribes pressed symbols into clay. Kings ruled from cities larger than anything the world had ever seen. This was where humanity first learned to build cities. This was where writing began. This was where time was divided into minutes and seconds. This was where civilization, as we know it, first took shape. And then, after thousands of years, it collapsed. The story begins with two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. They flowed down from the mountains of Turkey and Armenia, carrying water and rich silt into the dry plains of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. At first, this was not an easy place to live. Southern Iraq was brutally hot. Rain was rare. Floods were unpredictable. There was little stone, little timber, and almost no metal. But the rivers gave life. The people who settled there learned how to control water. They dug canals, built dams, and guided river water into dry land. Soon, the desert became farmland. They grew barley, wheat, dates, figs, sesame, onions, garlic, and lentils. They built houses from mud brick, made boats from reeds, and shaped clay into pots, tools, and tablets. The land was harsh, but that hardship forced people to work together, and from that cooperation, villages became towns, towns became cities, and cities became civilization. The people who built these first cities were the Sumerians. They called themselves the black-headed people. Their language was mysterious. It was not related to the languages around it. To the north lived the Akkadians, a Semitic-speaking people whose language was related to later Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic. For centuries, Sumerians and Akkadians lived side by side. They traded, shared ideas, worshipped similar gods, and built a shared world between the rivers. The greatest Sumerian cities included Eridu, Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Nippur, Kish, and Umma. Each city had its own ruler, its own temple, its own god, its own fields and canals. At the center of every city stood the temple, but the temple was more than a place of worship. It controlled land, stored grain, paid workers, organized trade, and kept records. And the need to keep records led to one of the greatest inventions in human history, writing. At first, writing was not created for poetry or stories. It was created for counting. How much grain was stored? How many sheep belonged to the temple? How much beer was owed to workers? How many jars of oil had been delivered? The Sumerians had two things in abundance, clay and reeds, so they shaped wet clay into tablets. Then they used reed styluses to press wedge-shaped marks into the surface. This became cuneiform, one of the world's earliest writing systems. Over time, these marks became more advanced. They could record names, laws, prayers, stories, and royal commands. For the first time, the human voice could survive death. A king could speak to the future. A merchant could record a debt. A priest could preserve a hymn. A poet could mourn a destroyed city. Around 37200 BC, the city of Uruk became the largest city on earth. Life in Uruk would have been noisy, crowded, and intense. The Sumerians were ancient, but they were human in ways we still recognize. Their achievements were extraordinary. They developed mathematics. They used a base 60 counting system, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle. They used the wheel. They built sailboats. They improved the plow. They worked copper and bronze. They created schools, contracts, laws, and systems of measurement. They also built ziggurats, huge step temple towers that rose above their cities. As cities grew richer, inequality grew deeper. Some people wore gold and lapis lazuli. Others worked for rations, barely enough to survive. Debt became common, slavery appeared, and war became organized. The first cities did not only create writing, law, and architecture, they also created armies. As farmland became more valuable, Sumerian cities began to fight. They fought over water, they fought over canals, they fought over borders and fields. One famous war was between Lagash and Umma. Their conflict was so brutal that it was carved into a monument known as the Stele of the Vultures. It shows soldiers marching in formation, enemies crushed beneath their feet, vultures carrying severed heads into the sky. Sumer had created civilization. Out of this violent age rose powerful kings. One ruler, Lugal-Zagassi of Umma, conquered many Sumerian cities and claimed power from the Persian Gulf toward the Mediterranean. But his empire did not last. Then came Sargon of Akkad. According to legend, Sargon began life as an abandoned baby found in a reed basket. He rose through the royal court, became a military leader, defeated Lugal-Zagassi, and founded a new capital called Akkad. Sargon created one of the first great empires in history, the Akkadian Empire. He controlled conquered cities by destroying their walls, placing loyal officials in power, and stationing soldiers where rebellion was likely. For a time, his empire was strong, but it also changed the balance between Sumerians and Akkadians. Akkadian became more important in government and trade. Slowly, the Sumerian language began to fade from everyday life. The Akkadian Empire reached its height under Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson. He called himself king of the four quarters of the world, but no king can command the climate. Around the late 3rd millennium BC, the world changed. Rainfall declined, the rivers weakened, harvests failed, famine spread. Modern scholars call this the 4.2 kiloyear event, a major climate crisis that affected several ancient civilizations. But to the people of Mesopotamia, it was not a scientific event. It was hunger. Fields produced less grain, cities became desperate, rebellions broke out, trade weakened, the empire began to crack. And when an empire grows weak, its enemies come closer. From the mountains came the Guti. They were tribal people from the Zagros region. Sumerian and Akkadian texts describe them as wild outsiders who did not understand cities or temples. They raided roads, destroyed fields, disrupted trade, and attacked weakened cities. Eventually, the Akkadian Empire collapsed. The great city of Akkad was destroyed so completely that its ruins have never been found. For more than a century, the Guti dominated parts of Mesopotamia. Later Sumerian writers remembered this as a dark age, a time when roads decayed, canals failed, fields were abandoned, and famine spread. But Sumer was not finished. A Sumerian ruler named Utu-Hengal rose from Uruk and defeated the Guti. For one last time, Sumerian power returned. This began the 3rd dynasty of Ur, the final great age of Sumer. Its greatest king was Ur-Nammu. He rebuilt roads and canals. He restored cities. He standardized weights and measurements. He created one of the earliest known law codes in history. And he built the great ziggurat of Ur. For a brief moment, it seemed as if Sumer had returned to glory. But beneath the surface, the land itself was failing. For centuries, farmers had irrigated their fields with river water, but river water carries salt. In the extreme heat of southern Iraq, the water evaporated and left salt behind. Year after year, the salt built up in the soil. Wheat began to fail. Barley became the main crop because it survived salt better. Harvest declined. The Sumerians tried to adapt. They rested fields, changed crops, and maintained canals. But the pressure was too great. The population was large. The cities needed food. The drought continued. The soil grew weaker. The land that had created Sumer was slowly choking it. Then came new enemies. From the west came the Martu, also known as the Amorites. From the east, the Elamites grew stronger. To stop the Martu, The Sumerians built a massive defensive wall between the Tigris and Euphrates, but walls are often built when an empire is already afraid, and this wall could not save them. The last king of Ur was Ibbi-Sin. When he came to the throne, the empire was already breaking apart. Cities rebelled, governors stopped obeying, the Matu pushed through the defenses. Famine struck the capital, grain prices rose terribly, people starved in the streets. Ibbi-Sin sent one of his generals, Ishbi-Ura, to buy grain for Ur, but instead of returning, Ishbi-Ura kept the grain, stayed in the city of Izin, and made himself king. This was the end of Sumerian power. Not one disaster, but many disasters at once. Drought, famine, salted fields, invasion, rebellion, betrayal, and a government too weak to hold itself together. Finally, the Elamites marched from the east and laid siege to Ur. They broke through the walls, they burned the city, they looted the temples. They captured Ibbi-Sin and carried him away in chains. The last king of Sumer died in a foreign land, and the age of the first cities came to an end. The Sumerians mourned their destroyed cities in poetry. They wrote laments for Ur, Uruk, Nippur, and other ruined places. They wrote of temples abandoned by the gods, streets filled with bodies, smoke covering the city, and people crying out in hunger and grief. After the fall, many Sumerian speakers left the south and moved north. Over generations, they adopted Akkadian. Their old language disappeared from daily life. The Sumerians were gone, but their influence remained. Writing survived, law survived, mathematics survived, cities survived, kingship survived, empire survived. Even today, every time we divide an hour into 60 minutes, we carry a small memory of Sumer, but the cities themselves returned to dust. The rivers changed course, the sea moved away, the canals dried, the walls crumbled, the ziggurats became lonely mounds in the desert. Ur, once a great port city, became stranded far from the sea. Uruk, once the largest city on earth, became ruins under the sand. The first cities were forgotten, until their clay tablets were found again. And through those tablets, the Sumerians began to speak. Their records, prayers, songs, laws, jokes, recipes, and laments survived in broken pieces of clay. They tell us that these people were not so different from us. They worked, they worried, they loved, they drank, they prayed, they fought, they built, they lost. Sumer was the beginning of civilization, but it was also one of history's first warnings that cities can rise from mud and water, but they can return to dust. No city is eternal. No empire is safe forever. And even the first world humanity ever built could fall.